It all starts with what seems normal. Jungkook appeared on screen in a black hoodie and hat that covered most of his face. He smiled a little, greeted with a low voice and a tone that sounded heavier than usual. But the army who knew him very well knew the smile was not what it used to be. Jungkook's eyes looked puffy, and his hands seemed to tremble as he held his warm cup of tea. Many think it's just fatigue. But no, that night was an emotional outburst that had been buried for too long. That night was a turning point. "I know you've been waiting for something from me for a long time," he said quietly. "And I know. I also kept it for a long time." Instantly, the virtual room went silent. Hundreds of thousands of comments scrolled quickly on the screen. Army's heart seemed to stop beating. There was something in Jungkook's unusual tone of voice. There is something urgent to reveal. And when he finally lifted his face and stared into the camera, those eyes spoke louder than his words. Someone who was ready to take off his mask. "I've been living a lie for too long," he said, taking a deep breath. "And it's not just about work. It's about who I really am. About how I've been feeling all this time. About a burden that I can't even explain to the other members." The statement stomped like lightning in broad daylight. Army began to panic. What does Jungkook really mean? Is it about his personal orientation? Is it about internal tensions within the group? Or something bigger? "I often look happy. I often laugh in front of the camera. But you know what? Every time the camera went off, I could only stare at a blank wall. I wonder, do I still have control over my life?" he said. And for the first time, Jungkook's voice sounded quivering, like someone who could no longer carry a burden in silence. What is surprising is not only the content of the confession, but the moment when he mentions a name that never expected to appear in this context. RM. "I told Namjoon Hyung that I couldn't take it anymore, that I feel like my life doesn't belong to me anymore." And you know what he does? He's quiet. But her tears just fell. Jungkook is down. He covered his face with both hands. The crying broke out. It's not the kind of thing you see on a variety show or award show. It is the cry of a person who ends up being true to himself, in front of millions of people. Army can't hold back emotions. On Twitter, the hashtags #JungkookWeLoveYou and #RMCrying became trending globally in just a few minutes. But the story of that night did not stop there. Precisely after that confession, Jungkook began to peel off one by one the layers that had protected him from the spotlight. He tells of sleepless nights because of fear of the future, about pressure on the part of labels who want to keep their image perfect, about the tacit conflict with some in the South Korean entertainment industry who felt Jungkook was too big to control, and about something that had never been imagined before, his desire to leave everything behind. "I've been thinking about going out," she said softly. "Not from BTS, but from all this. I want to disappear. Go to a place where no one knows me. Where I can be John Jungkook, not BTS Jungkook." The atmosphere in the living room changed dramatically. The comment went from a heart emoji to a row of frantic lines. "Don't leave, Jungkook. We love you. The army is here for you." But Jungkook just looked at the camera with a small smile, as if he was ready for whatever response came. But the real explosion came when he touched on one of Army's biggest speculations. Why does Jungkook seem increasingly interested in property, business? In the world beyond music? "You think I'm just trying to invest?" he asked in a bitter tone. "No, I'm preparing a way out. New place, new life. I don't want to be public forever." The explosion shook global fandom. Some consider it a sign that Jungkook will retire early. Some believe that this is a hint that he will move countries and build a property business empire that he had been hiding behind the name of fictitious companies. But the most astonishing thing was his last sentence before the broadcast was mysteriously interrupted. "Namjoon Hyung knows everything. But I think now, everyone should know, too. Because I'm not going back to being the same person." The broadcast ended abruptly. Jungkook disappeared from the screen, leaving thousands of faces speechless in uncertainty. And in just seconds, the internet exploded. Discussion forums are full of conspiracy theories. Some claim that Jungkook had feuded secretly with HYB executives. Some say that this is a farewell code that has been prepared since the beginning of the year. But one of the most thrilling things was the response from RM a few hours later. Through a very short post on Weverse, RM wrote, "You don't know how long we've been holding this. But maybe it's time things changed." Those words were like pouring gasoline on an already smoldering fire. Everything changed? What does RM mean? Is this a sign of internal discord? Will BTS take a longer hiatus? Is HYBE hiding something much bigger than just a comeback plan? Or is this the beginning of an acknowledgement that the K-pop industry is on the edge of its most dramatic transition yet? In the 48 hours following the broadcast, HYBE's shares declined. The analysts were confused. HYBE management released a neutral statement. We value the privacy and freedom of expression of our artists. But there was no immediate clarification on the intent of Jungkook's broadcast or RM's statement. But what was most disturbing was the fact that until the third day, Jungkook had not reappeared. No live, no uploads, no word. The army began flooding major airports in Korea, hoping to see where their idols were. Meanwhile, an insider has revealed that Jungkook is undergoing a psychological evaluation and has turned down a number of major overseas contracts, including exclusive offers from top Hollywood agencies. The question is no longer, why did Jungkook confess? But what exactly is going on behind the scenes of BTS? Because if this recognition is not the end, then it may be the beginning of something much greater, a silent revolution from within. And if it is true that RM has known it all, then the world may have to prepare for the truth that has been buried deep by the system. It didn't take long for the world to start digging deeper. When Jungkook disappeared from the public radar after his shocking confession, a distress signal began to ring from behind the walls of the South Korean Entertainment Corporation. Many thought it was just the usual emotional drama of a tired idol, but anyone who has followed BTS since day one knows none of them are throwing anything without hidden meaning. Especially Jungkook. And especially if the name RM is already involved. One thing to understand is, RM is not just the leader of BTS. He is the voice controller, as well as the bridge between what can be said and what should be kept. And so, when RM writes, it's time for everything to change, it's not just a reflection of personal feelings, it's a signal. And like all signals, it leads to something, a major change that has long been hidden from the public. The first leak came from someone who has been known as a senior production staff for BTS concerts, who in an anonymous forum mentioned that since 2023, Jungkook and RM have started talking about getting out of the system. In a lengthy post that went viral, the staffer mentioned that the duo had turned down a multi-million-dollar international concert project for what at the time sounded like a vague reason. We're not going to be part of the machine forever. Recently, new information appeared from a former financial consultant HYBE who claimed that since mid-2023, Jungkook has founded 5 shadow companies under different names, registered abroad in Switzerland, Thailand, and the United Arab Emirates, to be precise. These companies are engaged in property, media technology, and, most surprisingly, the development of private communities based on art and psychology. This is no ordinary investment, the anonymous source told investigative media in Seoul.